Welcome back to Online Seminary Canvas Basics. Today, we're going to take a few minutes to just navigate through the modules area of Canvas. This is where you spend a lot of your time, where all the lessons are found, and where you will make available, publish, unpublish, and make not available lessons to your students. And so, but first, before that, I just wanted to remind you of one thing. If you go over here, remember this is all of the different options that you have to look at in your Canvas class or course. If you click on settings in the blue at the bottom here, you just want to check really quick and make sure right here at the time zone that your time zone is set to when your class meets. So is it Central or Mountain? Now, if you go over here on the left and click on the modules, okay, now that you remind yourself of some of the important terminology that we use in Canvas and online teaching, let's go to the modules here and show you what we have. So first here, there's Introduction to Online Learning. That's for teachers. You don't publish this for students to see. This is just for you to click on and to get some ideas. And so this would be a great place to start if you haven't looked at those already. Secondly, there's another big module that is teacher resources. Again, don't publish this and let students ever see this, but this is just for you as a teacher. And basically for each week, it has the overview of what's coming that week. If you want to go and actually look at the lesson, you click on the link. But if you just want to look at the overview, you click on the little down arrow on the right hand side here, and it will share the lesson purpose, any student preparation that you might want to invite your students to do before they do this lesson, and any video conference teaching suggestions if you happen to be teaching this lesson over Zoom. Again, you can look at each lesson, kind of get prepared for the week, and see what your plan is to help your students have the best experience. Now to get back to the modules, you just go over to the left hand side, click on modules again, and it'll take you right back. As we scroll down here, right here we have the introductory materials. These are the opening lessons. Now again, I just want to share in a module, for something to have a chance to be seen by your students, it needs to be published in two places. First of all, the lesson, look at studying the scriptures here. Right over here, it needs to have a green check mark. Right now, it is not published. That's why it has that little circle with a slash through it. If I just click on that, it now publishes it. That says that this lesson can now be viewable to students. Now, for it to be viewable, the module up here in the gray also needs to be checked for anything in this to be viewable. So you're going to want to make sure that's checked too if you have things that students are going to be looking on. To unpublish it, you would just simply click that and click. Do you want to publish module on all items or unpublish module? You would choose what you want to do. Now, if you ever want to make that smaller so it's easier to go through your modules, you would just click on this top little arrow and it will do that for you. If you wanted to rename this module just to make it easier, you would just click here on the three dots, click edit, and you can just rename the module right there and update the module, and it would save it for you. That's pretty easy. Unpublishing and publishing, just remember, rule of thumb is if students are going to be able to see something in a module, the lesson has to be published and the module overall has to be published. It needs to have a green check mark. Now, if we just go down here and let's just look at all of the other lessons and resources we have throughout the year. There's an Introduction to Online Learning. This is for students. I would highly recommend, if you can, get all of your students added to Canvas early before school starts and have them work on this and complete this a week to a couple days before class actually starts. This will take them through and help them get oriented and to understand Canvas a little bit more. And then next, you see this is where our weekly lessons start in. This one is for July 24th through 30th. Simply, if you are not teaching that week, and this is already passed obviously in the summertime, I would just simply make that small and unpublish that whole module if it's not going to be seen or taught at all in your class. Just make sure it's unpublished, and then you won't have to worry about it again or worry about your students being confused by seeing it. Now, as you go through here, you'll just see that each week has 5 lessons, and there is one class community little activity that they can do at the beginning of the week, and a place or discussion board that you can use as a class community throughout the week. If you want to pose questions in certain lessons that you want students to discuss throughout that week and each day come back and keep the discussion going, then this would be a great place to add in those things. And we'll show you later how you can adapt and make this your own and change it if you'd like to. But to get back to the modules page, again, we need to go back to modules on the left hand side. You'll open up the modules, scroll down to where we were at. Now, just really quick, if you are having to change things, like most of you will because of different class schedules and when students are in school and out of school, from time to time you might have to take a lesson that's in this week's module and put it into the next week. So for example, if I wasn't going to be able to teach Assess Your Learning 7 this week, but I wanted to teach it the next week, all I simply need to do is over here on the right little 8 dots on the left here, I just click on that, left click on it, and drag that down, and I can place it wherever I want, into a different module, below or above. See how it just drags it there? If I unclick, then it will drop it in that spot. I could always just click and put it right back. Do that again. Really easy. Now you'll see if you just scroll through here, it will have every week assigned following Come Follow Me. Again, you can just rearrange things as you need and see fit. You'll have the whole semester ready for you here. I just want to show you as you get towards the end of the semester here in December 4th through 10th, it has the Doctoral Mastery Assessment too. Again, that might not be the best time to have it for your class, so you may need to rearrange where that is. Now, if you were to, let's say this week, you're teaching 4 lessons in class and you're going to have one that you do together, and you decided you want to do Assess Your Learning together, what you would do is just unpublish the Assess Your Learning so that students can't see that, and that's the one that you would do in the face-to-face class over Zoom or in person with your students. Again, as you go down here, there's some additional resources. These would be great if you're trying to teach your students how to have good study skills and different things. Students will have access to this, but it might be helpful as you go throughout the weeks to decide, hey, do I want to invite my students to do one of these throughout the actual school year? And you may decide to do that, so you can just drag and drop it and say, hey, this week we're going to focus on Jesus Christ in the Scriptures. As you start this week's study, I want you to look at this skill, and I invite you to do this skill throughout the rest of the week as you study the lessons. Could be a great way to help them and build their Scripture study skill techniques. There's For Strength of Youth resource that they have, and there'll be places that are linked that will take them here within the school. There's some questions about what will I do after high school that you can incorporate in different ways, and some other definitions and resources that you may just take a few minutes and look through those and see if they'll be helpful to you at any time during the class to help your students focus on those things. Wonderful. So just as a review, if I go back to a lesson, I want to make sure, if I want them to be viewable to students, that the module is published and the lessons that I want students to see are published. Any lessons that I would not want students ever to see, I want those to be unpublished. And so by practice, there's 2 different ways that you could go about publishing and unpublishing lessons. You can actually, if you want to, just do it manually, day by day. You'd have to make sure that you're being consistent and publishing at the same time and unpublishing at the same time. That's a little tedious, so I would suggest learning how to make lessons that are published become available and unavailable. That means they're published, they're ready, but you put in there and say students aren't able to see that lesson even though it's published until this date, until an end date. That would be the way that I would encourage you. But if you desire to, you can set all of those dates throughout the entire course, or you can go week by week. If you go week by week, you never want to have published more than what you want your students to accomplish in that day. The reason for that is it can be really confusing for students to know what lessons to actually do day by day, and we could lose the whole feel of students doing daily scripture study if we just keep a lot of things published. Then students will go ahead and just do a lot at one time, and that's not really our purpose. And I want to show you the best way to do that. So if I were to have these all published in the introductory materials, but I want to only allow my students to see the things at a certain time, I would do this. So if I have the introductory materials class community, I click on that activity, and here, as I get to this page, they have a little activity to do. Now, I can edit this and make it my own, but what I want to show you real quick, if I click on edit up here, at the bottom of this page where it says options, I have this spot that says available from and until. Now what you want to do is, this is the classroom weekly discussion. So let's say I was doing this in August. My first day was the 14th. So I would say the 14th, you could put in a time. I would probably say like 1 a.m. Oops, the 14th at 1 a.m. I want this to be seeable or viewable to my students, and I want it to be seeable or viewable until the end of that week. Let's say Saturday the 19th at 11:59 p.m. All right, if I do that, then this page, students will only be able to see it from the 14th to 19th. After the 19th at 11:59 p.m., it will disappear from their ability to find it and click on it. If I want to do that, I just hit save. It's been made available. Now, if I go back to modules and I want to update the next class, let's go to the introductory materials. Introduction to the New Testament. If I was going to have my students do that, again, I want to go click on edit. And I want to put a due date. This shows my students what day they need to have this done by. If I was doing this and say this was what I want them to complete on Monday, August 14th, I would just click on 14th. Again, I would have it due by 11:59 p.m. that night. And if I want to make this available just on that one day so students know that day they need to do it, I would go to August 14th and open it at 1 a.m. Make it so if my students get up early at any time, they can see it. And hit done. And then I'm going to have that go until the same day, the 14th. They need to have it done by 11:59 p.m. And I can save that. And now, because this is published, and I've also set the available times, my students will be able to see it at the time that I've made it available, and then it will disappear from them afterwards so they can focus on the next lesson. Now, if I go back to modules, again, if I look at introductory lessons, I'd want to go and set that available time and due date for each one of these lessons. Now, if I go back to the home page and I wanted to see what I just did and how that is viewable by students, I go to student view up here on the right. Now I can see what students are going to see. See right here, because I just made some of those classes viewable, what's coming up this next week or when the weeks to come, it's going to show things that are coming up and the due date. So Introduction to the New Testament, they can see August 14th at 11:59 p.m. I need to have that due. They're not going to be able to really actually click into it and do anything until August 14th. So they need to know that too. If they try to get in outside that availability date, it's going to show that they don't have access to it. It's not a mistake. It's just you not giving them access yet. You control when they're able to see it and not see it. So that's really helpful. Anytime that you want to see what a student is seeing, you can use this student view. To get out of the student view so you can do your things, just in the bottom right, click Leave Student View, and it will take you back to your view. I put some due dates on the calendar. If I click on that calendar, make sure that I'm viewing the class calendar, you'll see some things. We had Act 16 has been assigned and a due date. Dr. Master Review was given a due date. They're not available anymore. Those days have passed, so it's showing them crossed out, and students wouldn't be able to access that. But if we go to August, we just updated and made a due date for the Introduction to the New Testament. So students would be able to go to the calendar if they wanted to, and they could just click on this and actually get to their lesson if they like to. Right now, when I click on it, it's giving you a few options as a teacher. You can preview it and see what it is. And if you go through and you set all your due dates and availability time, each class lesson will start to pop up and populate on this calendar, and students will be able to access them.